After a week filled with some of the craziest sets of all time, we have reached the final week of the regular season of the Pokemon Draft League World Cup. Which teams will lock in their playoff spot? Who will have to compete in the play-ins, and who will be eliminated right now? Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot of great content ideas in mind, and any support would be greatly appreciated. Let's get right into it. Let's kick this off with US West's King L5 versus Canada's Panda. Terapagos chunks Avalugg hard. Well, Avalugg still manages to get the Stealth Rocks off before Ogerpon comes in on a Terra Blast and... Alright, well, Gliscor is able to set up a Spike as Garchomp comes in maybe for a Swords Dance. I am so here for this. Latias quickly finishes off Garchomp, but gives Goldango a free setup opportunity. However, Ditto comes in to copy. Well, so much for that. A bit of back and forth between the two leads to God Alomomola healing wishing into Ogerpon, who is able to clean up the game. Canada would end up winning the series 5-3. Let's now move on to UK's Addison versus US Midwest's II. Damn, he got all 3 weeks. Sairlich quickly terastalizes, revealing Will-O-Wisp, and then switching into Tinkaton to get the Stealth Rocks up. A couple sequences later resulted in II killing off Tinkaton and then removing the rocks on the Blastoise. Lando is able to remove the Blastoise, but Meowscarada gets in a position to start setting up its spikes, which Klefki does in return until Meowscarada reveals Leech Seed. Sairlich knocks out Klefki and then barely hangs on from Lando, killing it as well. Sairlich again hangs on, but a crucial Willow miss keeps Roaring Moon in a good position to clean up the game. Moon surprisingly Dragon Dances on Meowscarada, who only does 53% with U-turn. Meowscarada is back in after Roaring Moon reveals Roost, and it's able to get the Leech Seed off in order for Zapdos to 1v1 it. It's looking pretty bleak for Addy at this point, but Boots Garchomp can potentially beat a Spathra. Hands and Zapdos have a long exchange, where eventually a Spathra finishes it off. However, Garchomp can wrap this game up. Alright, well, a clutch Feather Dance of Spathra is able to win II the game. However, UK would still win this series 6-2. We now have France's Alcyone taking on EU West's Creator of Some. Hatterene puts work in right off the bat, chipping Palafin and Raging Bolt, who does eventually knock Hatterene out in the process with a Terra Blast. Lando T aggressively U-turns, but Crown hangs on. Another aggressive play, this time being Calm Mind, gets punished by Meowscarada, who forces an Iron Hands. Tauros Paldea severely weakens Lando T in exchange for Stealth Rocks being set up, and then another over-aggressive Focus Blast from the Iron Crown results in it having to be sacked, so Greninja can finally remove the Tauros. Iron Hands terastalizes and destroys Iron Treads, but Bolt is able to force it out. Mesprit finds itself in versus the Iron Moth, and with its red card, it can U-turn into Raging Bolt and find another kill. However, Iron Moth is now looking very keen to sweep the endgame, especially after Meowscarada is sacked. Fire Dance is able to nab a special attack boost, making things look even worse, but Mesprit gets up a light screen and then healing wishes into Raging Bolt, allowing it to barely win the game. France ends up taking this series 5-3. The Netherlands' Lavenza is up against the Caribbean's TJI-69. Heatran immediately is able to get a Magma Storm off on Gouging Fire, and then eats Earthquake with its Shuca Berry to fire off an Earth Power. Gliscor pivots in, revealing no Toxic Orb, and then Amoonguss is able to pivot in on the Walking Wake before Hatterene blocks the Spore. Gliscor finds a chance to Earthquake Torkoal, but a swap to eject button Hatterene brings Lilligant in. Lilligant attempts to set up. Yeah, no Toxic Orb kinda gave that one away. Lavenza continuously gets every 50-50 right versus the Walking Wake, with Amoonguss killing off Torkoal and Gouging Fire, giving Lavenza a 6-2 lead. Chiyu is now in and subs on the Sludge Bomb, which does not pop the sub, allowing it to get a Nasty Plot off. But once Sun goes down, the Greninja can revenge it with a Water move. Alrighty then, guess we're just LARPing as King Gambit out here. The Netherlands still ended up winning the series 6-2 however. US South Stories is up against Portugal's Thunder Games. Tinkaton and Registeel exchange rocks before Tinka is able to set up its screens, which allows Okidogi to start setting up, but Great Tusk starts setting up alongside it and eventually is able to knock out the Okidogi, but not without losing a considerable amount of HP. A smart pivot through Torn and H-Slam allows Sucker Punch plus the poison to knock out the Great Tusk. G-King chilies out on the Tinkaton, and Sandslash takes the field, terastalizing and knocking Tinkaton out at 60% with Triple Axle. Volcanion removes Registeel, however Sandslash is back out to play, knocking Volcanion out with the Choice Banded Earthquake. Latios, however, is still in a good position to bring this game back as it reveals Sub-Dragon Dance Scale Shot. Ogerpon hangs on, breaking the sub, however, allowing Banded Ice Shark to clean up the game. However, US South does end up winning this series 6-2. US Northeast's Kyle is up against Bangladesh's Lava. Tentacruel and Tinkaton exchange between Stealth Rocks, spinning, and attacking until Latios swaps in. An overprediction on Shadow Ball keeps Tentacruel alive and reveals the Latios' choice Scarf. A sequences of defensive pivots through Kyle's Darkrai and Bronzong and Lava's Diancie and Cinderace led to Loyander's Therian swords dancing up on the Garchomp. Diancie is able to get its spikes up before Bronzong finishes both it and the Tinkaton off with Nightshades. Zarude attempts to set up, but Terra Poison Sinistcha swiftly halts it. Iron Boulder comes in, but without booster energy, the game rests on a mighty Cleave roll versus the Latios. Latios will sweep Kyle if he does not get this roll right here. The Cleave goes off and barely picks up the KO, giving Kyle the win. However, US Northeast got upset, losing the series 6-2. China's Yiyu is up against Germany's Paddox. Early game, Dragalge finds itself in a position to T-Spike on Fezandipity, putting Yiyu in a weird position. Sandy Shocks attempts to scare Iron Treads with spinning, but we love an item that just allows any ground type to wall Sandy Shocks. Treads is able to get the spin off and then hard swaps to the Ogerpon. Spiky's shield allows her Pelipper to get rain back up as Jirachi U-turns on Treads, allowing Gren in. AV Fezandipity attempts to check it, but it reveals Swords Dance. Gren reads the swap to our Chaladon with Night Slash, so now it's in a good spot to proc its Battle Bond. Fez comes in to live the hit, and it does! Legion Jet plus Life Orb eventually picked the Gren off, and maybe Ogercon can still bring it back with some luck. Yeah, I meant if the Ogerpon got lucky. Paddox easily finishes the game off, however Germany would end up losing this series 6-2. Rest of the World's Astiff is taking on Latin America's Legendary Superior. The early game consists of a lot of pivoting and scouting sets until Urshifu aggressively swaps in on Weavile. Cyclozar catches the Surging Strikes, power-upping for a decent chip before going down to Drain Punch. Chiyu tears up and Psychic two-shots Clodsire, so Terapagos is forced to sack its shell. Iron Hands easily deals with the Terapagos, and after an overprediction from Latios, Iron Hands is able to Volt Switch into the Chiyu, who can guarantee claim another kill. Cerulege pops its Terra Fairy, ensuring Chiyu can no longer claim every time. A bit of pivoting around lets Weavile knock out Terapagos before Urshifu hangs on from Fezandipity's Play Rough, killing it with Aqua Jet. Meowscarada Play Roughs into the Iron Hands, but Astiff reads that Play Rough and goes for Heavy Slam to knock it out. But Cerulege is now in a good position to clean up as Bitterblade OHKOs the Chiyu at +1. But Dragonite goes for Endure plus Weakness Policy Extreme Speed, which puts it just in range of Weavile's Poison Jab, who is also able to eventually kill off Clodsire, allowing Rest of the World to win a must-win series 7-1. India's Steven Stone is up against Brazil's Eternal Spirit. Bandit Meowscarada catches Galvantula off the bat, preventing webs. Primarina just took half from Triple Axel, so the Galvantula has to get sacked off. Meowscarada axles into Gouging for more chip, but misses, allowing Gouging Fire to kill Meowscarada and severely dent the Ursaluna. Ursaluna goes down to SD Gliscor, so Tentacruel attempts to take it out, but Terra Normal looks like it's going to put a wrench in his plan. Or so we thought. I'm getting flashbacks right now. Raging Bolt pops Goldango's eject button, allowing Primarina to encore the Thunderbolt. Goldango starts plotting up again, however Tentacruel is in, and with its choice specs. And with its choice specs Hydro, it barely misses the knockout on Goldango, and these misses allow Goldango to live a Flare Blitz from Infernape and clean up the game. However, India still lost the series 5-3. EU East's Uramas is up against Austria's Siefmon. Scizor and Conkeldurr exchange knockoffs to begin with, before Iron Moth takes 59% from close combat. Moth attempts to apply some pressure here, however Red Card Glamora forces it out and puts Roaring Moon in the battle. Enamorus comes in hard on the Earthquake, and Scizor is pivoted through to get back into the Iron Moth. Conkeldurr hangs on from Sludge Wave, but Uxie calls out the Mach Punch. Eventually Enamorus finds itself in front of Rotom Wash, and opts to stay in for Moonblast damage in exchange for all of its health. Moth, Darkrai, Tusk, and Dragonite trade kills back and forth until Great Tusk eventually finds itself in front of the Banded Dragonite and makes a hard Earthquake call on the Volcanion swap, knocking it out. D-Knight is able to finish the Uxie off, but this time Darkrai reads the Ice Spinner on Dragonite, allowing it to take the hit, and it goes for Ice Beam, securing a 2-shot on Roaring Moon, then picking off the Tusk, and eventually Dragonite finishes all Rotom off, winning Siefmon the game, and allowing Austria to win the series 6-2. So those have been some of the best and worst games of the third week of the Pokemon Draft League World Cup. I won't be covering the games from the play-ins because there's not really enough series to go over. However, I may end up doing a playoffs picture video in the future. This has been Burger, and I'll see you guys for playoffs.